The humble triangle is among the first learned submissions in the sport. The first time you're triangled in earnest, it's an emotional roller coaster. What the fuck are their legs doing? How do I get out of this? And as the light fades, Grandma? And all the while thinking just how close my chin is to a complete stranger's nuts. The triangle is an effective and humiliating submission that is a mainstay in the arsenals of beginners and advanced practitioners alike. However, for some unfortunate grapplers, the triangle remains off the menu. This can be due to poor mobility, lack of strength, or being vertically challenged. I can't help you out with that last one, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Today we're going to talk about the anatomy and physiology of a triangle. We'll discuss the structures involved, contraction types, and how you can develop the strength to summon a squeeze from hell. This is a hardware discussion. If you're having trouble with your technique, that's a software issue. The first muscles that I want to discuss are the adductors. Specifically, the adductor magnus, longus, and brevis. All of the adductors pinch the knees, but these are the prime drivers to a tight squeeze. This is due to their more proximal insertion points along the femur, which is closer to the groin. Specifically, the adductor longus and brevis. The magnus has dual insertion points. Magnus means big. It runs along most of the femur. It's the largest adductor. These muscles pull the knees together to close the space around the neck and shoulder, ideally cutting off blood supply to the brain. Gentle art my ass. We can think of the adductors as the clamp. The hamstrings also play a vital role, specifically the action of bending the knee. This keeps the locking leg heavy on the opponent's neck so that they can't posture up. We can think of the hamstrings as the anchor, while the glutes are the finisher. The glute max is the biggest hip extensor. Once the figure 4 is locked and you're pulling on the head, the hips extend and drive the hamstring into the carotid artery. The obliques and abs also play a vital role, specifically when we need to laterally flex and rotate the spine to help cut the angle. This helps tighten the choke without the need for any further leg strength. Pro tip, in situations where your partner is doing a good job in defending you cutting the angle, simply bridge the hips and pull on the head. You'll get the finish most of the time. They don't let the kids do this in competition, and anything they don't let the kids do, you know that's the good stuff. Obviously, there's many other structures involved, like the entire upper extremity, for example, but if we go down that rabbit hole, we'll be here all fucking day. Most submissions are a full body endeavor, except for the cowardly wrist lock, of course. So now that we have a basic understanding of the structures involved, let's talk about the contraction type that's needed to finish the submission. As with most submissions, your ability to sustain an isometric contraction against a sweaty, resisting human being who is literally fighting for their life is crucial. And while there's no way to replicate this in the gym, there's plenty we can do to help strengthen and fortify these areas. Isometric contractions are when muscles generate tension without changing length or joint angle. They're mainly categorized as yielding and overcoming. A yielding isometric is when you hold a static position like a plank, for example. An overcoming iso is when you're pushing into an immovable object like a wall or a weight that you can't move. Isometrics are an often overlooked and underutilized tool in many strength and conditioning programs, mine included, by the way. We already get a ton of exposure to isometrics when doing the sport, but the sport is too chaotic and unpredictable to measure progress in a meaningful way. And because we're already getting some of it on the mats, we don't need a ton of volume off the mats. All it takes is 2 or 3 sets. To target the previously mentioned adductors, I really like short lever Copenhagen planks. These isolate the adductor chain in a way that mimics the lateral pressure of a triangle. You can do 2 to 3 sets of 20 to 30 second holds per side, or you can rep it out. I like to add weight to these using a sandbag. You'll see some people training their squeeze by triangling a foam roller or a medicine ball, but I personally feel that's kind of goofy. Plus, you're missing out on some of the ancillary benefits to the lateral trunk and shoulder. To train hip extension, I really like barbell hip thrusts. These train the hip extensors so you can strongly finish the choke. I'll do anywhere from 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps with about 2 reps in reserve on each set. There's some setup involved, and yes, you look like a fucking thought, but there's almost no skill requirement. Basically, anybody can do this. So that covers the strength piece, but what about the mobility requirements? The primary mobility restriction in a triangle is hip external rotation. Trying to force this can lead to LCL or meniscal injury. To develop this, I really like 90-90 hip switches or 90-90 bridges. Focus on keeping that front leg flat. If you need to, sit on a yoga block and build it out from there. To develop real mat adductor flexibility, try some Cossack squats. These help develop length under load. It can help prevent groin pulls when your opponent tries to stack or posture up out of the triangle. Another one I like is the pigeon pose. Being able to externally rotate your hip is critical when you want to keep that locking leg sitting flush across your opponent's shoulders. You can hold this stretch anywhere to 60 to 120 seconds. Add these into your training and let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments.